Good evening, everyone. Americans getting mixed messages tonight at a time we can ill afford it.
Tonight, a worldwide crisis hitting home as fear and uncertainty spread across our country.
I want to say that I know that this is a challenging time for all Americans.
With nearly half of the nation's population under orders to stay at home, tonight a skyrocketing number of Americans are testing positive for the coronavirus as states struggle to contain the deadly outbreak.
We're doing everything we can each day to confront and ultimately defeat this horrible, invisible enemy.
Tens of thousands are sick.
In a true sense, we're at war, and we're fighting an invisible enemy.
Most of my life has been dedicated to helping people take control of their health, live fully at their God-given potential. I now travel the country working with doctors of every specialty to help transition their approach to one best suited for their patients. An approach that empowers people rather than simply treating symptoms. Our healthcare system has failed by solely focusing on disease and the management of symptoms. How can we call it healthcare when insurance refuses to cover proactive measures designed to prevent disease? The system has failed the American people by failing to educate them. Recently, we've witnessed a state of panic over a very new and very serious virus, one serious enough to create a pandemic. Unfortunately, it's not likely this will be the last of its kind. The fear is understandable when people simply don't have all the facts, and no one likes to feel vulnerable, out of control, especially regarding their health and the health of their loved ones. What we do understand is much of the anxiety could have been lessened, at least dissipated, if people simply had some direction and hope. And that hope and direction coming prior to the event, not just during the event. And with a little help from some of my friends, I think we're going to be able to bring you that direction and hope. Hello, I'm Dr. Charles Webb, and I'm here with some experts that have traveled here to offer their advice on how to better support your health now and to better prepare for events like this in the future. Now, each one of these doctors has taken a different approach with their patient practice members. Instead of staying focused on simply the management of disease, they've preferred instead to be proactive with their patients, and the results have been nothing short of dramatic. And before we get into our conversation, I just want to do just a brief intro so the audience knows who you are. And Dr. Bernice, I think I'll start with you. You've really had an impressive career. You've been in San Antonio, you were with Vital Life, and now you have 2 centers now. You're training, you've got like 9 physicians that work with you, so you've grown like mad. I know you're also actually out training doctors from all over the country. Why don't you share a little bit of that with us?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Dr. Webb. We started Vital Life Wellness Center and the Institute for Peak Health about 10 years ago. And people in our community love this style of medicine, and they love what it's doing for them and their health. And I'm just passionate about teaching other doctors because I believe this should be a style of medicine. I
believe it's going to be if you keep doing what you do. Dr. King, you were trained Johns Hopkins, and I know that you practice in the same approach. You're out of Naples, Florida. Naples Vitality, I believe, is your practice. You also wrote a book that's an Amazon bestseller, Mastering Vitality, I believe.
Yes, absolutely. We wanted a way that we can educate and empower people, and so Mastering Vitality is a step-by-step, easy-to-follow process to allow people to take back control over their health.
I know it's been a big part of helping those people that come to you to start that education process, and we'll definitely dive into that. Dr. Sherwood, out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, you came down a little ways, and I appreciate it, but you've been doing this for quite a while as well, and you've been real busy with the books. I think you have 3 bestsellers now, and you just did a movie production, Fork Your Diet.
Yeah, we did a movie because we believe in public education, and we had done all kinds of classes and groups and online trainings, and we still do that, but we thought we could reach the masses like that. So the movie Fork Your Diet's been super successful so far. It's a labor of love to give people a sense of hope.
And it's what I really liked about it, because I saw the production, you really did it as a family type of movie, easy to understand for everyone. So that'll be something that we hope to see really expand even more. So thank you for doing that. And so as I get into these questions, we'll just kind of take them one at a time. But because we started this out, and the reason we put this together was because of this crisis, and so I still want to stick with that just a little bit before we get into the actual direction and what people can do, because there's some things that they could have done, and Dr. Bernice, you had mentioned this, but looking at what we've seen, what happened with this pandemic, with the coronavirus, Dr. King, I'd like to start with you on this. What do you think our healthcare system could have done? How could they have been better prepared to deal with this issue?
That's a very good question, Dr. Webb. And one of the things that I make reference to, so because I live in South Florida, we have to be prepared for natural disasters. This is no different. This is a natural disaster, and more are coming. We have an epidemic on our hands, not just with this virus, but we also have an epidemic with diabetes. We also have an epidemic with heart disease that are killing over 500,000 people every single year. So we have to be prepared for those things. So if I can make reference to a hurricane, when a hurricane is coming, we don't want to just bring in our plants or bring in our pool furniture to prepare for this hurricane coming, this storm. What we want to do is we want to board up the windows. We want to make sure our foundation is protected. Well, this is no different. We want to make sure that our foundation with our health, with our bodies, is protected. We have to make sure that, when I say the foundation, I'm talking about our immunity. It's not good enough to just think that you're going to take a supplement here or take some sort of herbal preparation to prepare yourself for this storm. We have to make sure that the foundations of our health are well protected.
So I like your example there, and again, I want to really emphasize that the foundation is designed and it's built for the area according to the soil, according to what kind of events, whether it's tornadoes, hurricanes, flooding, whatever. But the foundation has to be built well before the crisis. And I know from what I've seen, and I know all you guys have seen with your patients, people are frantically looking for a quick fix when it's regarding their immunity. It's not that we don't offer those support, and it's not that the immunity can't be strengthened fairly quickly, but the foundation, as you mentioned, with immunity, if our healthcare system, if it's designed to say, hey, we know that compromised immune systems, we know these people at risk, and not only is it creating problems with their way of living, their ability to live with abundance, and it affects their families, but it creates a tremendous cost and a burden on the healthcare system, because when we think of immunity, sometimes we don't think about, okay, well, does a diabetic have a compromised immune system? Does someone with cardiovascular disease, someone with asthma, someone that's on a lot of medication, someone with an autoimmune disease, someone that's using food incorrectly and not putting the kind of nutrients in their body? So I think this event would have been a lot different. I mean, I'll get your thoughts here in a sec, Dr. Sherwood, but it seems like from what you're doing, this is the same kind of thing that we can do to say, hey, why isn't this being done? Why are we not actually educating the public? Because for my patients, most of them come to me because we educate. They haven't been educated. What's your thoughts on that?
It's interesting to think about where we have got to as a society. I mean, America spends more per capita on healthcare insurance than anyone else in the world, and yet we are growing sick people faster than we're growing populations. Further, statistics say that we lead the world in hospitalizations for preventable diseases. So, as Dr. King was stating earlier, we have to rebuild this foundation, and the current system is not structured in a way to build up the foundation to withstand anything. And taking a proactive approach is going to, as we hear in one of my favorite books, is building a foundation upon a rock. And that rock, when the storms come, that house will stand and it won't crash over. And education is key to this, to give people hope, to give them the information, and really in a step-by-step approach, which we all have to take, do one thing at a time every single day to begin to build the system up and become more, as I like to say, bioresilient.
If we look at this, and this question really goes out to all of you, so, and if you have a response, but I know we always look at challenges. We can look at them as you know, just in fear and not a good thing or it's a problem. We can look at this challenge to become stronger. And as a nation, I see this challenge as really creating a lot of come together. And I think that if there's one way to look at this, isn't this virus, this coronavirus, isn't it just kind of putting a spotlight on a chronic problem that's just been band-aided and band-aided and band-aided? In other words, maybe for the first time, our health system, our disease management system, will finally step up and say, wait a minute, this has got to stop, whether it's diabetes or heart disease or obesity or whatever. It's just really hit people to a point that there's a mass, you know, frantic and everything else, when it just, obviously this coronavirus would create damage no matter what, but maybe it's a spotlight and maybe we can see a silver lining in this. What's your thoughts?
Well, Dr. Webb, I completely agree with you. I'm hoping that there is going to be a silver lining that comes out of all of this fear that's been created with coronavirus. My hope and my dream would be that as a medical community, all of us would come together, that we would start rethinking our processes, that we might push towards some type of paradigm shift in the disease care system that we're offering. We need to get away from identifying diseases and treating diseases with drugs. We need to get ahead of the picture, and we need to be proactive with pillars of health. There are certain things that our patients can follow, from detoxification through nutrition, through exercise and gut health, all of that foundation that can be used to keep them healthy, and in a state like this, less fearful of the possible complications.
Absolutely. Dr. Sherwood, with that said, I know you have some comments on that, but do you see us in a place where that maybe this will be impactful enough that we can actually see the healthcare system changing, and if so, what's that look like?
Yeah, I really do believe this is an incredible opportunity. I'll take another side of the coin here, if you will. Our world has been one that has been based upon adjustments with whatever challenges they face, and we've came through things that have been devastating to our world time and time again, eons upon eons and centuries upon centuries. This is a great time to evaluate what we're doing, why it hasn't worked, why are we so affected in such a negative way by this virus. I believe if we look at it from the positive side and do everything we can from a reevaluation standpoint and make adjustments correctly to prepare ahead of time, this could be, in a sense, one of the best things that's ever happened for our world. And I think we need to step back and go, okay, what good can come out of this? And I think there's a lot of good, perhaps a lot of great that can come out of this for a lot of people's lives. I'm not talking about just the person's now, but I'm talking about legacies to come, that your children and your children's children.
So I think we're all in agreement here that the healthcare system as such, even though, look, in acute situations, America's got some unbelievable physicians. They have unbelievable services, and the impact on acute situations, and even we see this in these times, without the hospitals, without the type of technology, we would really be in a bad place. So by no means are we suggesting that we don't have unbelievable care in this country for when someone gets into that situation. What we're striving here to teach all of you out there is that let's do everything we can in our power. Let's make certain that we're co-laboring, that we're holding ourselves accountable, and that we're with the type of doctor that acts as a mentor or coach in this new specialty that has been around for a while, but it's really becoming to the surface where more and more people are hearing about it, this functional medicine approach. And so that's really what we're looking at, and I believe Dr. Sherwood had it down, knowing that this is a spotlight saying the system's failing. It's failing people. It's failing people because it's not educating people. It's failing people because they're left in the dark. And so we're going to start our conversation now, because I know that you're wanting some information, you're wanting some direction. And all of these doctors they came here, they traveled here to talk to you about what they're doing with their patients, their practice members, as doctors, as coaches. And we're going to kind of go through this process of what exactly happens in these practices and why the kind of results that they're getting are over the top. And as I said earlier, nothing less than outstanding. So as we start these questions, Dr. Linell King, I'm going to start with you on this. I know that all of you have an educational process that you share with your clients. Start me off on that. How does that look like when someone's thinking about coming to you?
So basically, everyone that comes to us, they have to be pre-educated. This is a very different approach that we're using as far as empowering the individual. Everyone is the CEO of their own health. And we have some great doctors in America, especially in Florida. They really care about people. They really have their best interests at heart. But the problem is they're handcuffed. They're handcuffed in a system where they're told what they can do, how they can do it, and how much time that they have. I know this because I was in this same system. We're told we only have 15 minutes with each patient. So I recognized this and I had to break free. And in order to break free, I recognized that I need more than 15 minutes. I can't educate in just 15 minutes. So we start with educating the community. We get out there, whether it's through virtual platforms like podcasts or webinars or in-person dinner talks. We educate the community for free so that they can really understand what's really going on, the truth behind this crisis that we have, and what they can do to start taking back control over their own health.
So it's really something it's a necessity, but it's a public service. You guys you're out there reaching out any way that you can, getting out into the community instead of waiting for them to come to you. And it's very powerful. We know it's worked because we have doctors all over the country we see doing this right now. And again, on top of it, you've got the book and everything else. So it's pretty impactful. And so when they come in, are you seeing a different attitude? Are you seeing a different response than what typically people think about what to expect? I know when I was in practice, it seems like the typical response, people came to the doctor and they felt that the only reason they should be there was because they had some kind of symptom or they were sick or whatever, and they felt that, okay, you're the doctor, you're responsible to fix me, and I'm entitled because I have insurance. And unfortunately, that's just an illusion, right? As doctors, we know that we can't fix anyone. We can simply lead them. We can mentor them with our expertise. The most value, I think, that we have is the ability to help take out of our head an understanding of a knowledge of health and how to support health and bring that to our clients. And then as a coach, really have the ability to influence them, to support them, to hold them accountable, all those things. So the kind of attitude, did you see a difference in that mindset when they came in?
Absolutely. One of the most powerful things about the process that we use is when I'm pre-educating someone, I tell them up front, I can't heal you. I don't believe any doctor can heal you. I don't have any magic fairy dust I can just sprinkle on you and just make everything all better. We have the power to heal ourselves, every single person. And so when they come into the office, they are coming with that mentality. They know that they're going to have to be an active participant in their own rescue. So they're coming in not looking at me as a doctor who's going to fix them. They're coming in looking at me as their mentor. Doc, I'm ready to do the work. Show me the way. I'm ready to partner.
And Dr. Bernice, something that I was really impressed, I've known you for a long time, and recently, well, it's not recently, I guess it's probably been 4 or 5 years now, you set up your second location. Beautiful practice, and one of the things I was impressed with, when I walked in, you had this large room off to the left, large room that had a lot of sitting area for education, and I knew part of that was for your team, but you said, hey, Dr. Webb, this is the most valuable room I have in my practice because this is where we educate, this is where we empower our practice members, and I know you also do a lot of the pre-education up front, and but you continue, I know all of you continue this. Tell me this ongoing, it's almost like someone going through a curriculum, if you will.
Dr. Webb, you're exactly right. I don't think that most physicians actually have a classroom in their medical office, and that's one of the things that makes our programs unique. All of our patients, like Dr. King said, come in to be educated in a whole variety of things, from nutrition to juicing to cooking classes and exercise. And that's just unique to these wellness programs that we have.
Overall, if I'm a prospect looking for my doctor, this type of approach, not just with you all, from what I've seen around the country, this is a primary part of my experience coming to you. Is it's not about a one-off visit. It's about a curriculum that goes along with whatever they may need at that time, whatever treatments, whatever. But I can be assured, if I'm your patient, your practice member, I can be assured that the person that I am going in and what I know and my understanding of knowledge is going to be quite different as I move away. And I've heard a lot of you say, look, I don't want any patients needing me. I want to empower patients that they don't need me, but they choose to be with me, not just as a doctor, but as a coach. And I think that's just empowering. I know I did it. It worked quite well. And so once we have this education process, I know that there's a unique way to go about understanding these people that come to us and trust, you know, the doctor, hey, I need help. And there's a thing called diagnostics. And I know in the typical model, the traditional model, diagnostics are important any way that you look at them, but sometimes they're abused. Sometimes they're used unnecessarily. And I just experienced this myself. I was in Aspen, and my wife, unfortunately, took a bad fall and fell on her ski pole, right in the chest. And she was very concerned. If you've ever had a rib injury or intercostal tissue, it can be extremely painful every taking a breath or anything. And she felt very concerned, and I kind of let her know. I said, you're going to be okay, and there's really not much to do besides ice. Even if we have a slight fracture, there's not much to do. But to put her mind at ease, she really wanted to take a look at this. And so we took her over to an emergency and went in, and we got in, and so some testing was done. I was already pretty clear on what the findings would be. And first the PA came in and did the exam. Okay, great. We'll shoot some plain film radiographs, x-rays, so we can take a look at if there's any damage to the ribs. But outside of that, the testing didn't reveal there was any internal damage. There was nothing that showed up. I was right there. I did the testing myself, but we're there. And so that was the next step. And then a doctor came in, and the whole process started over again. What's up? And so I was a little confused of, guys, the information's out there. We already know what it is. And then, so he went through the testing, yes, came thing, and he said, I think we'll go ahead, we're gonna get some films, but we're gonna go ahead and run the CT scan. Time out. Okay, I'm a doctor, I know what's going on here, and I said, doctor, there's no findings that would justify running a CT right now. And he looked at me and he knew I was a doctor, and he said, yeah, we'll start with the plain film. I said, we'll start with the plain film. And the reason I bring this up is this is kind of what we see in the field. And if you're not a doctor, as a patient, you may feel, oh, well, this is great, I'm getting a CT and everything. It's not necessary to run the CT. It's not going to change anything. There wasn't any internal damage. If there would have been necessary. But this is a very expensive test that was not justified. And that's creating problems in our healthcare cost. So it's these types of things that testing is important when it's necessary, when the findings tell us. So I want to talk a little bit about the type of testing that you guys do and the importance of it. Is there any importance, like I said, with the CT, was that really necessary? And if we do a test, if we don't have something that we're going to do about the findings of the test, is it necessary? So Dr. Sherwood, let's go ahead and start with you on that one if you could.
When we talk about trying to determine best courses of action or even developing a plan for a person's optimum wellness journey or optimum health achievement, we want to really think about, what is going on. So we really want to start with the history. We have a saying that goes like this: the mystery is unraveled in the history. So if you take a good history, you ask the right questions, you listen very well. And that's one of the things that we really emphasize to all of our practitioners, not just the ones here, but all around, is learn to be a good listener. Hear what you're not hearing, and see and determine what you're not seeing and determining. Look between the lines and the cracks. And it's good to run diagnostic tests. As functional medicine practitioners, we have all kinds of cool razzle-dazzle tests that would tell you all kinds of information. But too much information can be completely overwhelming and absolutely irrelevant at the particular time. The proper perception of a test and the proper timing of that test is critical. When you do a test, a diagnostic test, it has to have measurables attached. What question are you asking? Are you asking this question? And if you ask a question with the lab, that should give you that answer, that the question you ask. Once you get the answer, what are the steps necessary to get that particular thing resolved? And how long is it going to take me? And that has to be structured into the plan. For example, you might start out with a serum lab that's comprehensive from a functional standpoint. Great. But you also could start off with a food antigen test. It depends, but do you always need to do all of those at the same time? Probably not, because it's too much information. Sometimes, depending on the person in front of you, it is good to not give them an overwhelming amount of information. Instead, give them bits and pieces, and as Dr. King stated, that it has to be a step-by-step incremental approach to getting them to their best life, and that may take them 3, 4, 5, 6 months a year to get them to the next step, but this is a long-term, lifetime partnership with not just the person, but their family. So I believe that testing is important. We just need to know how to do it and the proper timing and the proper interpretation. That's the critical element.
Well, and thanks for sharing that. And the other thing that I've witnessed when I was in practice, and I know you all do too, is so much of the testing that gives us the best information isn't necessarily the expensive testing. As you mentioned, blood labs themselves, not real expensive. Now, obviously insurance doesn't cover all the ones that really we need, but that's another story. But also food allergies, things like this, simple tests. We don't have to automatically go, like you said, to these wizardry tests and all that. And again, sometimes they get run because of profit, and that's not the business we're in here. We're in the business of changing lives. We're in the business of getting the right information at the right time that helps us as the practitioner make the choice and helps that person in front of us that trusts us to give them information so they can feel comfortable knowing that we did the right things, the logical approach, the one that's going to give us the right information at the time. Dr. King, is there anything on this that you would like to add?
So like Dr. Sherwood said, timing is everything, but what I really want to add is it's not a one-size-fits-all. I have a lot of times where a person would ask me, so what are all the tests that you're going to do when I show up? My answer is, I don't know. We have to go through your history, because the history, like Dr. Sherwood said, is so very important. Sometimes we may need to get labs straight out of the gate to give us vital information to know what direction that we're going to go in. Other times we already know from the history, okay, we have to make sure that we create a clean foundation. We have to detox the body. Once we do that, now let's look at comprehensive blood work to see where we're at so we know where we're going. So it really, I want to make sure that I emphasize that what's right for you may not be right for someone else. So it has to be individualized.
I'm going to continue with you right now, Dr. King, because I want to segue in this. You mentioned something that I was getting ready to move into next. Now that we have a foundation here, we have an understanding of what's going on. You mentioned detox, and a lot of times people think they're doing the right things. They've changed their diet. Perhaps they saw Dr. Sherwood's movie, Fork Your Diet. And so, okay, I've made the changes. I'm eating whole foods. I'm eating organic foods. And sometimes the results aren't coming along. And what people don't understand is when we have a damaged gut and we have inflammation, that needs to be repaired before we start getting into, and some of the tests can reveal that. But I know the next step that all of you in some way or another in your practices, you do incorporate really getting this detoxification. A lot of people are confused on that term because there's so much garbage out there like the 3-day detox, and that's just not what we're talking about here. Can you give us some detail on that, Dr. King?
So there's an approach that we use that we are not reaching in and pulling out toxins, okay? That can be dangerous at times. What we're doing is we're helping the body detox itself. The body's brilliant, it's very smart, and it's trying to detox every single day. We need to focus on strengthening the body's ability. So it's a process of the liver. The liver's the #1 detoxification organ in the body. It's very important. And also the gut. The gut is where inflammation starts. It's where everything begins. So if we focus there, then we're able to help the body detoxify itself.
Dr. Gonzales, I know again, you got your classroom set up. I know you do some interesting things with your practice members. And so on this process with detox and we repair, I know some of that has to do with the diet. I know there's some healthy supplements, but sometimes people, what we don't want to do is replace their medications with a bunch of pills, but there are natural whole foods to help support this. And then it's just really getting in the nutrition. And so that's kind of the next step as we repair. And I don't know, is there specific actions that you work with your clients in the education, so forth, on the nutrition part?
Well, I'd like to answer that question for you, Dr. Webb, but I also want to echo what Dr. King has to mention. He's talking about detoxification. He's talking about the importance of a healthy gut and having a clean liver. Unfortunately, today we see a lot of patients that are suffering and struggling with fatty liver. That's one component. But I do think that we sometimes forget the most simple things when it comes to detoxification. I learned early on that detoxification includes, the body detoxes through urination, through perspiration, through defecation. And those things are very, very simple. Unfortunately, our patients today don't even drink enough water. Unfortunately, today, our patients aren't getting enough whole foods in their diet. They're not getting enough fiber in their diet to help the elimination process. And unfortunately, today, we live in a society that's very sedentary. Our patients aren't moving enough to perspire and to detox in that fashion.
Exactly.
So detoxification doesn't have to be that complicated. It's very, very simple.
It's taken some simple steps, but I always, when I was in practice, always told people, look, it's not that we have to add so much, it's just that we got to remove, right? And I hate to say this, but you know, sometimes it really is not all their fault. I mean, we think, because we think that everyone knows how to eat right. And the fact of the matter is there's a lot of confusion out there. They're not always getting this education from their physicians or what have you. And so sometimes we have to have empathy. And I know that's how when you put your movie together, Dr. Sherwood, but we have to have empathy and we have to recognize people don't understand. There's a lot of false advertisements out there and so forth. So the nutrition we know plays a huge part, and I know some of you guys do grocery store tours and cooking classes, and you make it fun for everyone. You do retreats and things like this, so that's really cool. But I used to tell, when people worked with me, I said, look, I'm not gonna have you do anything that I don't do. I'm not gonna ask you to do anything. It's not more difficult putting the right things in the mouth and eliminating bad things. It's just different. And that also means, I mean, I personally, I do practice what I preach, but I like to have a cup of coffee in the morning. Some people think, oh, I can't have coffee. Well, there might be a little bit of a time if we're stressed out, maybe coffee isn't the best thing, but I always assured people, look, I'm not gonna take your coffee away. Let's just make certain it's organic. Look, I'm not going to take your wine away, maybe for a period of time. I mean, my wife and I, we cook at home and we like to have a glass of red wine or something. So I just want everyone to understand that eating right isn't a sacrifice. What you're letting go of are the things that hold us hostage and the things that we don't feel well. And when we don't feel well, it can create anxiety. It can create depression. We can lose our vitality, our virility. And so nutrition plays such a big part of it. And when we talk about detox, I know that's removing some of these chemicals that people have in their bodies that they're totally unaware of. Dr. King, I know we've talked a lot about this in the past and what we see when people come in and what's served in restaurants and stuff, some of these artificial sweeteners and so forth. You want to mention that at all?
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion out there, and you got to be careful with the marketing. You know, we have these labels. They say sugar-free, fat-free, organic, gluten-free, and I tell everyone, if it says something that's free, there's something else that is added that's going to destroy you. So you got to be really careful. And the other thing is, you don't have to be perfect. You know, I'm not perfect. I share with all of our practice members, I am just like you. I have the same struggles. You know, sometimes I might cheat here and there, and then I feel it. My body tells me, hey, you should not have eaten that. And so it's really a journey that we all take together, but we have to educate ourselves and make sure that we're aware when we have to question some of the marketing.
It can be fun. It doesn't have to be a trial. It can be challenging with your children. I've got a 15-year-old son, and we've always had challenge. Some people, no matter how well you do, there can be struggles. But there's things that we've been able to introduce. I know a lot of children today, and I know that you talk about this in your movie, Dr. Sherwood, when it comes to vegetables and things like this, there is challenges, and there's always ways around it. With Landon, my son, we simply finally, you know, he watched one of these documentaries about juicing and so forth, and he looks at me, he says, Dad, he says, so I can get all my vegetables, I can get all that in like a glass of this juice. I said, yes. and so he was okay with that. So that's how we introduced my son Landon to a healthier diet, and every single night he's got his juice there. So whether he's got vegetables on his plate or not, it doesn't matter, because he's got more in that bottle, that jar, or that glass than he could do any other way. So nutrition's a huge role. There's no way around it. And I know for years and years, typical medical tradition said, well, food just doesn't have that much an impact. And we don't need to get into that anymore, because everyone knows nutrition's king. And I know that you have programs that take people through, as I mentioned earlier, like you would a college curriculum. They go through the online classes and all this kind of stuff. You have some at your office. I've seen some of your events, Dr. King, where people come over. You actually share your home. Before we move into fitness, tell me a little bit. I saw this. Tell me what you do. You bring everyone over to your home.
Well, again, I think it's very important that people understand that we struggle. We struggle just like you. We're human. And so I don't want anyone to think that, oh, it's easy for you, Dr. King, because you're healthy and you do all these things and you have all this education. So I bring people into my home so that they see, hey, I'm a real person. I live just like you. And I also want to celebrate their success. I am inspired by each and every one of my practice members, because they've made a decision. They've made a decision to transform their life. And they've done it, and those are the people that I want to be around. So yeah, I started out, I had 4 people at a retreat at my house, and now it's grown to hundreds. And so my wife, Kashima, she says, all right, no more at the house. We can't fit anyone, any person. We can't fit any more people at our house. So anyway, I think it's a really, really valuable experience, not only for my practice members, but for us as well.
Well, I've seen events. You videoed some of them, and I was so impressed. And since you did that, so many other doctors that saw this did it. But what a way to influence people to where you've empowered them to where they actually want. They want to do this for themselves, but they want to do it for you. You've become their mentor, and they don't want to let you down. And I saw that, and you actually had the ability in this environment to make them feel at home, make them feel family like we used to back in the old days, right? And not only that, I noticed that you had like certificates of completion and awards. And anyway, thanks for doing that. And again, it's the way I think things should be going. Now, so what we've done is we've gone through, let's identify what's going on with our patient through testing, and let's do the right testing. We've covered how do we heal before we start the nutrition. We talked about detox and how that's also going to boost immunity and repair and drop inflammation. We go into nutrition. Well, there's an activity part here, right? Dr. Sherwood, you've been into the fitness industry forever. I know that you've traveled the world teaching fitness and so forth. You still do it. You look great. How do you incorporate this, and what kind of challenges do you see with people that maybe have never done any kind of activity or fitness activities?
The idea of exercise or fitness or movement has been so misconstrued over the course of my life, to the point where now people think they can exercise away a bad diet or pill it away or supplement away or whatever. That's just not true. We all need to move more and sit less. The idea of the sedentary lifestyle has permeated our world and society to the point now we think we can exercise 15 minutes and then go to work and sit on our backside all day, and that's sufficient. Truly not. So what we've tried to do with people is to get them to take the idea of exercise away, where they didn't suppose that they had to go to a gym, but they just had to move more. So we've kind of switched out the word exercise for just movement. And we put them a goal out there that they would move 150 minutes per week, just dedicated movement. Find something you like to do that's fun to do, that it gives you enjoyment, it gives you a rush, it gives you that dopaminergic endorphin sort of sensation, and go for it. Do it. If it's walking, great. Start small and begin to progress as you go. There are some people that haven't exercised in years, haven't moved in years. Just walking to their mailbox or walking around the block may be a major accomplishment. And we celebrate that. So the idea is, even while you're at work, whether you have a sit-down job or not, I tell them to follow the 20 and 2 rule. For every 20 minutes you sit, stand up for 2, and that will activate the system to at least begin to create more metabolic action. So really just teaching people the concept that sitting is the new smoking, and it really is. We need to just move and make our life just a life of movement, and we're better off for it in the long term.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about the sitting and so forth, and something I did years ago, I got a standing desk. And because I don't like to sit, I just don't. I'm not as creative when I sit. I like to move. But I'll tell you, my initial concern is, man, standing all day, I wonder how that's going to feel on my feet or my knees, because sometimes I've been to events where, like, even when I have clients come in and I'm standing late, sometimes I notice that. And I was real surprised after about a week, I didn't have any of those, because what you find yourself moving around at the desk and so forth. So I never sit at the office, and in fact, I come in early in the morning at 7 o'clock, and one of the individuals that works with me, we take a morning walk about 7 o'clock when the sun's coming up, because I know we're told to stay out of the sun is probably one of the worst pieces of advice we've ever gotten, but that sun's got the energy, and that starts my day great. And then at around noon, he'll come and get me, and we'll take another walk. And no matter where you walk, there's the opportunity to get out into the sun and the light and take a little walk. And so basically what I'm understanding, people can just start moving. And that in itself is going to start empowering people. They don't have to feel like, I have to go to the gym. And they can do that, and I know you have different levels of fitness. They can do that. But we know, you also mentioned, I caught on it, these endorphins that are produced and these chemicals that make us feel good and make us feel comfortable and less anxious. There's enough stuff in life to keep us that way. Dr. Bernice, you've got even people that work within your practice that kind of specialize in this, and I think there's opportunities for them to work with those individuals. Is that right?
In our practice, we have a whole team of wellness experts, and from naturopathic physicians to our traditional functional medicine doctors, but we work closely with clinical nutritionists and exercise experts, and we provide that service, to all of our members.
So no matter who's coming in, they don't have to worry about trying to figure this out on their own. It's like, I can come in with an empty slate. I don't know anything. I can be assured that all these things we've talked about, including exercise, someone's going to kind of hold my hand if I need to.
And one of the beautiful things about these wellness curriculums and these wellness programs is that truly this style of medicine is personalized. In traditional medicine, it's a one-size-fits-all type of scenario. But when we're working with our members, we actually take a good history, and part of that history has to do with how are they moving, how much are they moving, and we actually personalize it for them.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. I know why you guys do that. So I like to call them pillars, if you will. And so we've talked about these pillars, and there's something that we still haven't talked about that I think is a primary, and I guess we've kind of talked about in a roundabout way. So now that you've got your testing, and now that you're moving through this cleaning up the house, so to speak, and then preparing it for the right nutrition, and the willingness to remove some of the processed foods, and again, you really go into detail in your movie, Dr. Sherwood, and then the nutrition starts, and we've got the fitness, and I know, yes, there can be some support supplements, vitamin D, people aren't in the sun, so we know probiotics, things like this, and that, again, that's going to be individualized, but I think the most powerful thing, and something that I learned at a very young age, I was introduced to a gentleman that became my first teacher, my first mentor, and by the name of Dr. Jack LaLanne. He was a doctor, he was a chiropractor, but most of you watching this probably heard of Jack LaLanne. Now, if you're younger, you probably remember Jack LaLanne as the juicer because he came out with his wife, and he was one of the first guys that started in this juicing. For you that are my age, he had the jumpsuit. The guy was built like no one's business at a time where we didn't see people look like this. And when I was a little kid and I saw Jack, I was like, well, he doesn't look like people that look like this. He looks different than this. And I wanted to be like Jack. I wanted to be like Jack. And so that was my first mentor. I never got to meet him personally, but he's the one that really motivated me to start getting in shape at a very young age. And when I was 12 years old, I built my own weight set and everything else, started working out. So he was a mentor to America all the way through his life. An interesting story, he came to Parker College when he was 94 years old, and the whole audience of doctors were so excited to see this guy come out because he was it. And he's 94, and so all the audience is all pumped up, the music's going, and Jack comes out on the stage, and all of a sudden there was silence. Because Jack looked real febrile, and he had a cane, and he was moving slow, and everyone was just feeling for him, like, oh man, poor Jack. And he comes up to the mic, and he starts talking, then he kind of looks over, he gives a wink, stands up, throws his cane, starts doing jumping jacks on the stage at 94, like, where'd you think I was going? But that is a state of health and wellness that we know is available to all of us. And this whole myth and this cop-out, like I like to say it, well, my genetics. And Dr. Sherwood, you're in epigenetics big time, and we all know that this really is nothing more than maybe 3% of what's going to, how our life's going to be. And Jack LaLanne was a proof of that. But that was my mentor. I know you guys had your mentors, but let's talk about that. Can these pillars work without a coach? What's the importance? You guys act as coach. Dr. Sherwood, how does this come into play? Is this play a huge part in your success rate?
No question that we need to understand that our genes don't determine our destiny. You do. It's important to get this right because we have this expectation right now that our life curve kind of looks like this, if you can kind of think of a reverse bell curve. With our last 12 years being kind of described as 2 Dixie cups full of pills morning and night, with specialists prescribing all these medicines and not talking with each other just until people forget about you and someone changes your diaper and feeds you. It does not have to be like that, and I think your example of Jack LaLanne was perfect. Our life curve should look like this. We come up, we have a quality of life, and then the death process is short. We need to live like that and believe like that. Of all of our genetics, they've changed 2% in 10,000 years. Do you understand that that's not much? Our body's ability to evolve and adjust and adapt to different conditions of food and temperature and climate and all that has been nothing short of phenomenal. With that said, we've tried hard in the past to sort of draw conclusions with different genes creating different illnesses. And truly, there are some genes, mutations that can be associated with the primary cause of illnesses. But that represents no more than 2, 3, or 4% of all disease processes. So it puts it back in our court. This concept of lifestyle adjustment, following these 4 pillars, doing this and putting this into practice in our life, is without question going to provide benefit to every single human being. As far as I'm concerned, everybody needs to put all of their effort into that and not put so much effort into thinking, what genes might I be missing? Super important, and really need to understand that our genetics and their expression, if you will, is correlated primarily by our environment. What environment do we put ourselves in? What environment do we speak ourselves in? It's that important. And it all starts with everything that we hear, everything that we see, everything that comes into our mouth, and perhaps everything that comes out of our mouth, and finally what we do with our bodies. And I guess I would be remiss if I didn't add on who you hang out with. That's why the concept of being around a community, there's synergy in that, there's strength in that. And it's our desire, of course, to grow that community where it affects the world in the generations to come. So I think we're on the right path with that.
Having the support, having the community, the doctor behaving as the leader in that community, as the coach, as the Obi-Wan Kenobi, being there to help the patient become the hero rather than the doctor. We see Marcus or whatever, Marcus Welby or whatever, we see these shows, and it's always Hollywood makes the doctor the hero. People aren't, they want to be the hero, right? And if we act as their coach or their mentor and we support them, we help them co-labor. And like you said, the attitude of the person coming to see us no longer has to be in this victim state of mind. And this is the good news. I know some people, they kind of fall into this habit of like, well, I would be healthier, but, and the because. And although that might be something they've formed a habit in saying, it still puts them in that victim place, because that means you don't have control. And what I just heard from you and all of you today is, yeah, we all have control. And that's a wonderful, beautiful, beautiful thing to know that I can live the way that I choose to, as long as I have that mentor, as long as I have a structured pathway, which you guys have painted out. So in this place, what I always did in practice, and now you do, when someone's coming in, and this is a different scenario where they're not just given a treatment, or you take this or you do this, we're asking them, would you co-labor with me? Would you be willing to do that? I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I don't do. Yes, I'll do that. Well, that means we need support, as you just mentioned, Dr. Sherwood. We need support. In my practice, what I did is I made certain that if they were married or they had a spouse, I asked them to come along, because out of respect for them, I didn't want them to go home, well, Dr. Webb told me this. Well, Dr. Webb's got a responsibility to make certain that their loved one understands what's going on too. So I made it an invite. Please come in. Whether you change your lifestyle, that's up to you, but we're here for your spouse right now. We're here for your child, or we're here for your parent, but everyone needs that support. And so I would ask them to come in. And so when we made the decision, yes, we're going to make lifestyle changes, they had someone that was with them the whole time. They knew the education part of it. They trusted my team and I, and they said, we're moving forward with you, Dr. Webb, and I'm going to make certain that my husband works with you here. I'll support him, because it's changed. Again, it's not necessarily difficult. It's just different. And when something's different, when there's change, we can assume that's different. And I think you guys have the same, Dr. King, you have the same kind of process, right?
Absolutely. I think this is one of the most fun things that we do. We have a niche in South Florida. We work with retired couples. Now, we have everything from a 34-year-old athlete, all the way up to people that are, 90-year-old widow or what have you. But we have a lot of couples, and they work their entire life to build up this nest egg, which they're preparing for a wonderful retirement where they can spend quality time with each other and travel and do all the things that they love, just to find out that either all of their expenses are going into medical bills, or they can't do any of those things because they're suffering. So we have them come together and go on this journey together. It's something that they do together, they have fun together, but most importantly, they get healthy together. We've saved marriages, we've brought fun back into their life, and it's really a great thing to see, because when you understand what your partner is doing and you're on board with that, it's just really beautiful to be able to bring those things that you want to do in your retirement or in your life together with the person that you love the most.
I always saw when people did this together, they would come back and, whether it was a brief program of 6 weeks or maybe a long program, 6 months or whatever it was, but doing it together, they always came back and said, I'm so glad you asked my spouse to come, because I wanted him to be a part of this, and he didn't know. And we did this together as a couple. It was the best investment we ever made. We would do it again. An investment, I'm not just talking financial, I'm talking life, the time they spent on it. Dr. Gonzales, with this type of approach, is there anyone that wouldn't be able to move forward on something? Is there anyone that you think might not be impacted with this kind of approach?
Well, I think this approach is very important. Dr. King talked about saving couples and saving marriages and allowing families or couples to enjoy their retirement. But I think it's important also to discuss how we are actually saving families. We're dealing with a crisis today that everybody's talking about. They're talking about this virus. However, we're not talking about the crisis that we're seeing in our children. 1 in 4 children actually has a chronic illness today. We're seeing extraordinary amounts of obesity, depression, diabetes, allergies, autism. And I think with what we deliver through these wellness programs and these wellness curriculums, we have the opportunity not only to save couples, but to save families and to save generations. And I think everybody can benefit from this type of program and from this type of approach.
Absolutely. You know, I was talking with you, Dr. Sherwood earlier on this, and we all agree with us. I knew what your answer was going to be because I asked you the same question. It was like, yes, this is the right approach for everyone that's willing to put their health first, that's willing to make the changes. Again, it's a co-labor of love. We don't come to people saying, I'm gonna heal you, Dr. King, with your pixie dust or whatever you saw this. So yes, you know, you can make tremendous strides no matter where you are. It just depends, how long has it been? Have you neglected your health for a decade? Have you neglected it for 10 years? Have you neglected it for 2 decades, 3, right? Because the more that we've gone, it's kind of like there's a debt we got to get caught up on. And sometimes it means there's going to be a little extra effort, but the time to start is yesterday. So we have this whole solution. Now, I know a question that people ask, we talked about up front, okay, does insurance cover this kind of stuff? Dr. Sherwood.
Let's face it, you cannot build a relationship, you cannot build this type of partnership with 15 minutes or 10. You can't do that. My wife and I made the adjustment a few years ago when we got a 2-cent reimbursement from insurance. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. And no more. We want to spend time with people. Insurance is not built to bring about wellness from a foundational perspective. Insurance is built to take care of you if something bad happens to you, like a catastrophic incident, such as Dr. Webb was saying with his wife getting the bad fall while they were skiing. It's important to understand that we need great acute care models, and we have that. America is #1. Well done. We've done a really good job on that. But when you're talking about the ability to teach, coach, train, mentor someone from staying out of the ditch for the rest of their life, that's what we're talking about. And again, insurance is not meant to do that. We have a sort of a different definition of this concept of primary care. And all of us, certainly in this video, would have the same premise that we believe that we primarily care about you enough to keep you out of our office. And it's true that if we do our job right, you need us less. And if we do our job right, you need us less, then that means you need the acute care system less as well. And everybody wins in that model. Everybody wins.
Well put, and to take that little further, I think, again, that whole mindset, people have been intentionally brought this information of, hey, don't take care of yourself, right? Insurance should take care of that, and that's a model for profit. That's not a model to actually empower people. And it's kind of like the doctors that are here and the doctors that we work with around the country are in this functional medicine model. And I always look at it this way and tell people, just imagine taking out of that model. You're no longer in that acute model. We'll leave that for insurance. We'll leave that for these other people. But it's like when someone wants to really get healthy and they say, it's time for me to get in shape. I'm done with this. I'm going to get healthy. If you really think about those people, when they get fed up and they say, I'm going to do something about it, when they put themselves into place, meaning I'm going to co-labor, do they think of a doctor or do they think of a personal trainer? Well, often they think of the personal trainer because that represents health, and the last thing they think of is asking that personal trainer, well, will insurance cover this? There's no expectations because they know what they're offering them is true health, and insurance doesn't cover that. Now, you guys are offering the same type of approach, but on top of it, you're bringing an expertise in as a physician. You're bringing the expertise in to do the diagnostics, to do all the things that we've talked about, cleaning up the body, sealing the gut, healing the gut, clean eating, the fitness part of it, and the mentorship part of it. So I just want to help people understand, when I look at this, I've invested a tremendous amount into myself, I still do, But this isn't something for a short period of time. This is not a quick fix thing. If someone's 40 years old today and they work with a physician like you, the investment of their time, their financial investment, is for the next 40 to 50 years of their life. That's the exchange of value, and that's the empowerment there. So I really want to thank you all for coming in and sharing this. Is there any, before I stop, is there any particular questions that you hear a lot, common questions that we can answer right now? Dr. Sherwood, anything that you typically hear that maybe would be to help empower some people right now?
Yeah, we hear the question that sounds something like this: how am I going to pay for that? I'm telling you, we all will find a way to pay for what we believe to be important. There is no question in my mind and in our experience, we've seen it time and time again, that when people invest in this concept of taking care of this temple and caring for it right, the investment lasts a lifetime. It becomes this small little investment that has this immense amount of return. The return is called life. People don't need to die through life, as I like to say. They can live through life, and that's exactly what they're going to get. So you can't not afford to do it. There is a way when there's a will. You put the will behind it, there will be a way. So we get that a lot, but there's always the answer behind it. So that's kind of one I hear a lot.
Well, people, when they see something, there's one thing. I don't want to pay for something that seems like an expense. A typical doctor's visit sometimes seems like an expense. This is different. This is a whole different thing we're talking about. People are willing to say, if I invest in myself and you empower me, just like if I go to a financial lecture and they're teaching me how to better save on my taxes and so forth, that's an investment that I've made that's going to pay off. I don't know of a greater investment than your health. And again, it's easy for us to say because I'm enjoying that lifestyle. And some people that maybe have never done that, not enjoying it, it might be harder. All I'm going to say is at least take the first step and get with one of these doctors out there. Just at least take the first step. You can make the decision, become educated, understand what the empowerment's going to be down the line. Dr. King, anything you want to contribute to that? Any other questions that might come up?
A lot of the questions that I get, people are looking for the quick fix. What can I do to protect myself from this virus? What can I do to get my weight down? And because we do a lot of virtual programs, we get these questions all the time. And it's like Dr. Gonzales said, personalized. There's not a one size fits all. And so the answer to these questions, please find a mentor, find a guide that can help put all the pieces together to help you get to your destination. I can't stress that enough.
Dr. Gonzales, I'll let you finish.
All these programs actually are focusing on lifestyle medicine, and it's actually quite simple. And if you have the right mentor, if you have the right coach, if you are part of a system of experts, there's no doubt in my mind that you're going to achieve optimal health and optimal wellness.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. I know you took time to get down here at a time that's a little hectic and so forth. I think it was empowering. I think our audience has learned quite a bit from this. And if you're watching this, then it's likely that you received this special feature from your doctor, or perhaps a doctor in your community, or maybe a friend sent it to you. Whoever got this to you, and you know that there's a better way. You know there's a better way to take care of yourself. You know there's a better approach, and this made sense to you, it was logical to you. I'm going to ask you strongly, please reach out to the person that directed you to this special feature to learn more and find a doctor in the community. If you just got this online and you don't know of where to find this type of practitioner, there's a hotline that you'll find on the screen there, and if you'll just call that hotline, we will reach out and we'll see what we can do to find a doctor that's practicing this approach, this proactive approach, if you will, to act as your coach, your mentor, your doctor, and we'll make certain we get that to you so you can reach out and start taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, your loved ones, and living life to your God-given ability. Thank you for watching. God bless. Take care.